Now that's how you build to a Mania match. These are my assorted thoughts on the April 7th, 2025 WWE Raw. Welcome to Silo Voice Wrestling on YouTube and the Silo Voice Wrestling podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jason C. McLean. Jey Uso's response to Gunther beating up his brother was absolutely riveting. I mean, this is the exact way to build this story for WrestleMania. Now, this has been the longest build so far. So, yeah, there were some weeks where they were trying to show Jay's insecurity, bringing some other people into it. You couldn't go too fast with this, but this is actually the right time, and it's made this feud way more interesting. Gunther beat up Jimmy last week, and this time Jey, he came out with the same music, everyone yeeting, but he was not yeeting, and he was in a very serious frame of mind, and that's absolutely what you have to do. Now, I think he's obviously going to go back to yeeting either entering WrestleMania because you really want that entrance, or leaving WrestleMania if he wins. I'm assuming at this point Jay's going to win. Jay's got to win. Like, if they put him through this and he doesn't win, that's going to be really bad. I don't think his title reign is going to be that long, but I definitely think he's going to win now after everything that he went through. And the only, I guess, problem with doing this was the audience, because the audience wanted to eat. Pat McAfee was eating, and when he was really serious, at first he was sort of in a similar rhythm, so they kept going yeet, yeet, but I even signaled no yeet. And I think he doesn't want to get mad at the audience, but like controlling the audience is important. I think they did catch on midway through this promo, and except for like one guy or two guys who kept going yeet, yeet really loud, and at the end they started yeet. So I think they have it under control. That's the risk you have when you're doing something like this. But, I remembered, wait a second, Jey Uso can be a really serious character. I'm thinking back to the whole, issue with Sami in the bloodline, and then his issues with Roman. It was before all the eating. He was a really serious character, and he was really over as a babyface, which is why they gave him this push, this main event Jey Uso push. But the thing is, the push became like, I guess it was just so good for marketing and for fun for the crowd. I when he was in Montreal, I was doing the eating as well too. But it's kind of hard to not kill that, but just to put that to the side. And I'm wondering how the audience is going to take it next time. I don't think he should have another promo before WrestleMania. I think it should maybe just be a video, and Gunther gives a video, or maybe like an angle or something, like Gunther's one. There's like a bit of physicality or something like that. A huge pull apart. I could see that, but I think this promo was a perfect end promo for Jey Uso. And Gunther played it very well too. Uso was serious, and Gunther was playing along. He was doing the fun thing, and he didn't say a word this entire time. And I think that was absolutely perfect. And the way Jey used his real name, saying his mother said, "Why didn't you protect him, Joshua?" Because he's really Joshua Fatu. Bringing the realism. I think that when he said Joshua, I think that's when the audience, those who were still making noise, or most of them, realized, wait a second, no, this is serious. We gotta just listen. This was perfectly done. They just got to find a way to keep the audience from ruining it, but I think they found that. And even though I'm sure it's going to be opening, it's officially not one of the main events. This match now feels like a main event again. Seth Rollins just made himself relevant again in this three-way. Before this, he was just sort of like the guy really upset, or the guy, laughing, as the two, I guess, slightly larger stars, Roman Reigns and CM Punk, were going back and forth with Paul Heyman. Of course, it started in typical Paul Heyman fashion with his typical promo. Seth came out, was fun, but then started making sense and got a little bit creepy and heelish with Paul. Of course, we knew CM Punk was there. Adam Pearson said it the day before, so Punk came out to save Paul. But after Seth stomped Punk, he almost stomped Paul and said, "Now you owe me a favor." This, I think, was necessary for Rollins' character. It added another dimension to it. He also made some very good points about Paul Heyman, like basically saying they don't really care for you. But also, the underlying thing is, I know you don't really care for them too. They're your friends, they're your tribal chief, but really you're looking out for Paul Heyman. And what's the favor Seth's going to ask now? Maybe leading fuel to the fire that Heyman might end up in Seth's, leaving with Seth, coming in with Punk, but leaving with Seth. I don't think that's going to happen because that would make really no sense character-wise, but that would be a hell of a swerve. But this main event has now gotten even more interesting, and now it really feels like a valid triple threat match. Lyra Valkyria defending the Women's Intercontinental Championship against Bayley was really an excellent match and a very exciting match. Now, we already know that these two are teaming up in the gauntlet, and I think we're all pretty sure that they're the ones who are going to win the gauntlet, so they're going to be challenging for the Women's Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. But that didn't mean that Bayley wasn't going to win. Bayley could easily win the Intercontinental Championship and still team with the former champion. And there was a spot in the middle of this match, I guess like a seesaw spot or something that Lyra did. I was wondering, how's Bayley going to tap out? I guess she just has to say, I quit. So maybe it's not a submission hold. It's just sort of a wear down hold. But then at the end, Bayley had her own submission hold on the Boston Crab. And I guess Lyra kind of tricked her into giving up the hold to do her finisher, do a rose plant, and then just rolled her up for the 1, 2, 3. It was kind of sneaky. Maybe, I don't know, Lyra's going kind of heelish. There's definitely, it's good things. They still have tension between these two because at WrestleMania, can they coexist? And if they win the Women's Tag Team Championships, one of them is going to be a double champion. Well, I guess Lyra will be a double champion. So there might be that heat between them breaking up. I think Liv and Raquel are going to retain. But, for a match that we know that these two are going to have to coexist at WrestleMania, it still was really, really good. A really, really good performance. It won the crowd over. It was, I think, Cole called it like a not 5-star, but he gave some terminology. But yeah, this was probably the best match on the show. Really exciting, really fun match to watch. Even though the stakes didn't seem to be as great, there was still a title on the line, and it definitely had my attention. Another fun match was the LWO represented by Dragon Lee, Joaquin Wilde, and Cruz del Toro versus the Creed brothers, accompanied by Ivy Nile and El Grande Americano, not Chad Gable. I like this because, the high-flying spots, they don't get talked about enough until they actually happen. I almost forget every time that they're this good, but the Joaquin Wilde, Cruz del Toro with their high-flying stuff, that was really spectacular. And there was an interesting bit with Ivy Niles slipping like a piece of metal to not Chad Gable, El Grande Americano, put it in his mask. That's how he won. He won by cheating. It's an interesting thing that's caused to have his mask removed, even though he's a luchador. But of course, the big takeaway from this match is we're getting Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano at WrestleMania. Now, I don't know if they were going to do this match on Mania. They always try to get Rey Mysterio on. Maybe this is because Randy Orton doesn't have a match and he's not going to get a replacement. I don't know. But effectively, we're getting Chad Gable versus Rey Mysterio in a singles match, just under a silly gimmick. I'm wondering if they're going to do a mask for retirement or something like that. Like either Chad Gable, or either El Grande Americano has to unmask if he loses, or Rey Mysterio has to unmask and therefore retire if he loses. Rey Mysterio might be near retirement age. In fact, he said he was probably going to retire when he turned 50, and I think he's probably already turned 50. So it's possible Rey Mysterio could lose that match if it's a retirement match, and that's how he goes out. But of course, it's also very possible El Grande Americano is finally unmasked. If they could do a switcheroo and it's not Chad Gable, that would be hilarious. Regardless, though, this is a match on the Mania card that I didn't know I wanted, but now I want to see. We started off with Adam Pearce, strangely standing next to the Women's World Championship, brought out Io Sky, the champion, brought out Bianca Belair, her opponent, and brought out Rhea Ripley of Judgment Day. Yes, Michael Cole observed that Rhea Ripley is no longer a member of Judgment Day. I guess that was a slip up from Adam Pearce. Maybe it was intentional, trying to show that he's stressed right now and he's losing it. I don't know. Yeah, we got the announcement of the triple threat. We got some fighting. Io Sky was disrespected, but she gave both ladies a nice missile drop kick and then signed the contract. And Finally, it's official at WrestleMania for the Women's World Championship. Io Sky defending against Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley in a triple threat match. Finally, we all knew this was going to happen. This is what they were hinting at from the very first time when, basically when Io won. Or like even at Elimination Chamber, it looked like they were setting up a triple threat match. But when Io won, it was absolutely certain because you're not going to not have Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. Maybe they would have made it official sooner if the audience had bought Rhea just taking the contract and signing. And people are like, no, you can't do it that way. So they had to extend their story. I don't know the reasoning. I think they extended this announcement of the match way too long. Instead, we could have just been building the match all this time. Maybe in retrospect, this will seem like a good build to the match, but I don't know. I'm just happy we got it because I think we all know this match is going to cook. Penta versus Dirty Dominic Mysterio was a fun match. But of course, the real purpose was the aftermatch where Braun Breaker came in, gave one hell of a spear to Carlito and speared pretty much everyone else except for Finn Balor. And we ended with Finn Balor standing tall, holding the Intercontinental Championship, because the real purpose of this was to set up for the already announced Fatal 4-Way match for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. Braun Breaker, the champion, defending against Penta, Finn Balor, and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. You know, last week, I was fearing this might happen because I thought it would be a Fatal 4-Way, whereas we also have a Fatal 4-Way for the United States Championship. But fortunately for that championship, we just have LA Knight defending against Jacob Fatu. So you know what? I'm now really cool with this match. I think this is a really interesting match. This is going to be a hell of a match. We have, Braun Breaker and Penta is a good match. And also the tension between Finn and Dom. It was Liv who got Dom on the match. I'm going to do more of my predictions video, but I have a feeling, I'm not ruling it out. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not ruling it out. This is the only situation where you could legitimately make Dominic Mysterio the Intercontinental Champion. Penta and maybe like Penta spears Finn or something like that. And then, or no, Penta, Breaker spears Finn, and then Penta and Breaker fight off. Dominic was like lying down, sneaks in, and maybe even hits Finn with something, or Liv hits Finn with something really dirty. 1, 2, 3, Dom's the champion, Finn's out of Judgment Day. And maybe Finn turns babyface. Who knows? There's actually a lot of possibilities with this match, and I'm actually quite excited for this match, given the fact that it's not going to be one of two Fatal 4-Ways, and given the build they've been giving to it. They made this match make perfect sense. The War Raiders defending the World Tag Team Championships against the New Day was a good match. It was enjoyable. Of course, it surprisingly ended with Ivar getting disqualified and then a brutal attack after. So this has me thinking that maybe they'll actually do a rematch at WrestleMania. It's kind of last minute. The build really isn't there, and it's not the kind of match that really can get a quick build, but maybe it can. I think this championship and also the New Day on WrestleMania is a good thing, especially that will justify their heel turn. Also, it was kind of funny. They did a little bit, I think it was during the commercial break, where they showed the, Kofi Mania, like the anniversary of Kofi Mania, and they actually photoshopped Big E out of the picture. It was during the commercial, but Michael Cole referenced it later during the show. And these were my assorted thoughts on the April 7th, 2025 WWE Raw. That's Raw from Minneapolis, Minnesota, home of Chad Gable. And there was some other stuff during the commercial breaks on this show. We got Liv Morgan and Raquel cutting a funny promo about the winner of the Gauntlet tag team match. The big takeaway is all the teams are great, but not as great as us, except for Maxine Dupree and Natalya, who could be great, but not as great as us, because I guess they hadn't really been a team yet. Also, we got Ludwig Kaiser saying, first, let me address the elephant in the room. You think he's going to talk about what Charlotte said, but no. The last week on Raw, I said that Ludwig Kaiser is being ignored for WrestleMania. And stuff. Also, I didn't mention it, main thing, but we did get a match between Karrion Kross and AJ Styles for next week. Maybe Logan Paul is going to play into this somehow. It's interesting Karrion Kross is getting a match. He hasn't had one for a while. Could be fun. Did you agree with my assorted thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Follow at Silo Voice Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, at Silo Wrestling on X, and me at Jason C. McLean on X and Instagram. And don't forget my other social media, Jason C. McLean, bsky.social. That's on Blue Sky. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications to get all my wrestling hot takes, cold takes, simmering takes, wrestling opinion pieces, WWE Premium Live Event prediction and review videos, and assorted thoughts on SmackDown and Raw. I will be back with my assorted thoughts on SmackDown. For now, though, from Silo Voice Studios in Montreal, I'm Jason C. McLean.